Yes, I will call to order the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting. We are the green tabs towards the back of the book. Our first order of business is a roll call. Mr. Floyd, would you take care of that for us?
Yes, sir. Trustee Baker?
Here.
Trustee Boyd? Trustee Cottle?
Present.
Trustee DeLay?
Here.
Trustee Freeman?
Here.
Committee Chair Jacobs?
Here?
Chair Smith?
Here.
Vice Chair Carboyak?
Here.
Trustee Wright?
Here.
Trustee James?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. First item of business is behind tab 1. It's the minutes from the previous meeting. I need a motion and a second if you all so desire.
So moved. Second.
Any questions about the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sydney, glad to have you back. Sydney's in the room. Tom Boyd is here, so let the record reflect that Tom is with us. We do have under tab 2, Sydney has made a hire for the university, and this committee and the board gets to approve that. And Sydney, would you mind reviewing with us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, good morning, members of the board. Policy 808 requires, dealing with compensation reporting and appointments, approval of all direct individuals reporting to the president. In that regard, I'm bringing forth to this board the position of Assistant to the President for Community Relations and Inclusion, a position that I've spoken to each of you about over the last year or so. We conducted a national search, had significant interest of applicants for this position. We established a committee, a search committee, chaired by the dean of our liberal arts college, who reviewed and interviewed candidates. 3 candidates were brought in for campus-wide interviews, and it is my recommendation, members of the board, that Dr. Monica Smith be hired in the position of Assistant to the President for Community Relations and Inclusion. Included in your packet are her resume. She comes highly qualified and recommended. Her interview on the campus was in no measure stellar. She has had experience in community relations, working in corporate America, the Honda Corporation, with universities, and she has been a very successful consultant over the years in this area. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it is my recommendation that the board affirms this hire, a very critical position as we continue to move forward in bringing the community closer to the university engagement. We actually had a position like this several years ago, and the individual retired, the former dean of our College of Education. And I took some time to make sure that we get the right person and with the right set of responsibilities and right qualifications. And we all agree from those who have been a part of this search process that Dr. Monica Smith is the candidate to be recommended. We look forward to her joining us upon approval of this board in April.
When do you think she would actually start work?
She's ready to, as soon as the board affirms in April 5th, she's ready to go, and we need her sooner than later.
I have a question, Dr. McPhee. What are some of the priorities of the person who fills this role coming in the first couple years?
The first couple of years, of course, is to get to understand and get a feel for the university, meeting with the various constituent groups as it relates to issue regarding bringing the community engaged, involved with the university, addressing the various, what I'd call disparate part of social justice, diversity issues. We have a lot of programs and initiatives in that area, but coordination to be more efficient and more effective is going to be some of the key roles of bringing it together, and she is very competent in doing that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. McPhee?
I move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Second from Darrell. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say the same thing. Hearing none, unanimous. Thank you, Dr. McPhee. Alan, you're up next. You ready?
Thank you, Chairman.
You're already there.
I am here. So
Okay. Tell us
And-
about policy 611.
I'm glad to be back in the appropriate committee. So under tab 3, we have a policy revision that is pretty much just a cleanup of a policy for action that has already been taken by the board. I believe it was last year, might have been just a little longer than a year. The board made a recommendation and approved to remove the presentation of CFI information at board meetings. So we've revised the policy to state this, but that it will still continue to be used in a variety of ways between the president and myself, Department of Education, other LGI comparisons. And I was talking to Chairman Smith ahead of time on one area, find my markup, under.
Page 22.
Yes,
Yeah, page
okay,
22.
there you go. We will, where it says the president, vice
The red
president
line.
for business and finance will discuss the metrics annually to determine if any changes are needed in the university's budget and report these changes with the next budget submission to the board. We will add in there that we will also bring any deficiencies in those metrics to the board's attention, and then the related adjustments in the budget to fix those. Not just bring a budget and say, here's a budget, here's changes in the budget, but you not know exactly why. So that will be added.
Tom, this is your request. To-
It looks good, yeah, we never did anything with the numbers. The numbers are kind of misleading. I think it
Yeah.
took a lot of time that we didn't need to spend.
So I think Alan and his staff have come up with a way to revise the policy.
I'll second that, if you made the motion.
Yes, so moved.
Second? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
As amended.
As amended.
That's right. Thank you. Hearing any opposed? None. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Alan, do you have
Okay.
the rest of the agenda?
Yes, tab 4 talks about the governor's budget and legislative budget hearing updates.
I did hear that it's going to be another 60 days roughly of
So,
that
Will
they're
they
going to be in
adjourn?
session before everything really gets finalized.
so the information that's here is not new. This is communication that was sent out to you from Dr. McPhee, along with THEC's analysis. Both of those done quickly after the budget was released. I think we got most of that correct. Nothing new there. Same timeline as Chairman Jacobs said, is kind of what we're watching. We've had two, seems like more than two, but two budget hearings, legislative budget hearings that Dr. McPhee has presented at, and those went well, one in the House, one in the Senate. And some of those can get long with the other bills and stuff that are presented as well, but I think was able to get much of the information in front of them related to MTSU. And Dr. McPhee may want to mention, one of the items that he has talked to legislators and those committees specifically was how to address funding of universities' salaries.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we, as the Vice President said, we've had 2 major budget hearings each year. We have to defend our budget. I'm pleased to say that from the committees, we only receive positive feedback and comments about the operation of the university and the support for the university, both from the House Ways and Means Committee and the Senate Education Committee. The key is to get your budget moved forward from the Senate Finance Committee to the General Assembly for approval. And we were successful in having our budget move forward for next year. I also want to just briefly update you on the Day on the Hill that we brought the university to visit with legislators. With the help of our lobbyists, we were able to set up 19 different visits, 15 minutes apiece, with all of the key legislative leaders. So I've met with the Speaker of the House, Lieutenant Governor, chairman of all of the various committees, our legislative delegation. In total, I think we started like 7 o'clock that morning and ended up finishing up till about 6 p.m. with one-on-one meetings with each of those individuals. And again, no issue of concern, very supportive. In fact, we spoke about the need to fund the governor's budget and the part that MTSU has in that budget with regards to our $62 million airspace building, plus $5 million that's being considered for the transition in that program. We were able to talk to them about our concern about the salaries and the real challenge, not just MTSU, but all the universities have with regards to the salaries for our employees, faculty, and staff. You know that we are at the 2014-15 market level. It's very difficult for us to attract and to retain our employees at that level. And in fact, the hire that you just approved, I had one heck of a time trying to get her to sign on board with the salary that we offered. And I made the point to the legislators that the state has recognized the problem of salaries for state agencies. And the last 3 years, the governor and the legislature has approved multi-millions of dollars above and beyond the salary increase, basic salary increase to state agencies to help them to bring their market from where they are up to 2022. In this year's budget, $125 million was allocated for state agencies to bring salaries up to market because they were experiencing the same thing that we are experiencing, particularly in relates to IT and many other areas of attracting and retaining. I made that case. We had the opportunity to have former Speaker Beth Howell, who visited with me and allowed us the opportunity to really move and to open some doors for us. We got a pretty good response to that. Now, whether or not next year we will see any movement, but that has to be a priority for us if we're going to continue to move forward. Our faculty salaries are terrible. There's no other way to say it. Same thing with our employees. And so if we're going to be making the progress we have to have that source of additional source of revenue. So anything that you all can do in meeting with legislators and colleagues in Nashville to push that issue, I'm recommending that next year that the budget, there should be some appropriation for higher education that will allow us not necessarily move up to 22-23, but at least move us up from 2014 to 2015. And Alan, you might want to remind the board about the amount of dollars that our HR did that will get us to that level.
Yes, at the last committee meeting, I think we updated it to 2021, and that was 16.3 million, counting benefits, salary and benefits, so on a recurring basis. So that's what we're looking at.
And as I mentioned, this year's budget, 125 million. The year before, it was like
For the last 2 or 3 years before, and I think it was 3, it went from there was 25, and then there was a 30 and a 34, maybe.
So close to
So-
$200 million in the last 2 years, the state has allocated to assist state agencies with regards to this salary issue. Higher education has been left out. And so my number one priority for the upcoming budget and legislative session is to continue to push that issue in support of our employees.
And just a reminder that on salary funding for higher education,
That's right.
we don't get a 4% pool, we get 60% of a 4% pool. And then we try to do market, and we try to do across the board, we try to do merit, and we try to do multiple things with 60% of 4%, so.
In addition, they hold back on the increase of tuition and fees, which is a revenue source for us. So this year, it is anticipated that THEC would recommend 0 increase. So we have to make up that difference. They haven't funded the fully, the 100% of the 4% across the board. Plus, we're going to have a real struggle because 0 increase in tuition.
Thank you, Dr. McPhee.
You're going to have a presentation in a minute from the Faculty Senate concerning that. And I'm not stealing any thunder from them because I don't know exactly what they're saying, but anytime I've talked with Charlie Baum or any of the folks that I know, what this really does is create a race to mediocrity. If you've got mediocre professors and that's all you, and staff, and that's all you can attract, you're going to be turning out mediocre students into the workforce. And that's just that simple. You don't want to create a race to mediocrity. You got to create a race to excellence. If anything you can do to help on that side with those folks.
Well, we worked on that this morning. Tom Boyd had Steve and I and Dr. McPhee up at 6 o'clock to attend a breakfast with the legislatures that really this issue is in their hands. And especially when they handcuff us on things that we can and can't do, like here you're going to only get 60% of what we think are the raises, or that you're not going to be able to raise tuition or fees. That's a challenging puzzle for Alan and Dr. McPhee when it comes time to do the budget and how to keep and retain the best of the best. And I totally agree with your comments, but it's in their hands. They have the money and they know that they did it with the state employees. And hopefully we're positive. We just want to point out what it means to the universities. And we have a year to really work on it because there'll be another budget next year. And we sure would like to see an adjustment item in the budget for this issue. So anyway.
Is there any explanation as to why the lack of movement on this issue, which has been around for a number of years? I mean, there's got to be a rationale, right? What is the
Well, they think. I think they personally think universities are bloated, and that we have stuff to cut to make up the money, but they forget about the cuts that we did
Absolutely.
during the tough times
08, 09, 010.
that put us behind. And Steve and Dr. McPhee can give you a better sense of why they won't do it.
Trustee Gaboyak, in 08, 09, 010, 1 year, our budget was cut $38 million 1 year. And we were told by the legislature at that time that because the universities had the ability to raise tuition, that they would cut our budget and allow us to raise tuition. And those were the years when we had raised tuition like 12%, 13, and 14%. Those days are gone. They also told us that when things got better, they would make us whole. That never happened. In addition, while they're saying that we have a revenue source and that the state agencies don't have a revenue source, they then, as Chairman Jacobs said, they handicap us by telling us we can't raise tuition, or if we do, it only could be 1 or 2%.
It's a tough issue.
Figure.
Tough issue.
So Sydney, if you would allow us, would you send us whatever you've given our lobby group? And whatever in a short format to where we don't get in a trap trying to explain
Great.
the point of view to if and when we have these discussions?
We will put together a talking point
Okay.
for you all. Andrew?
Oh, Darrell, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was going to say, what are we projecting in terms of enrollment growth? And how does that impact our ability to add additional staff, raises? What are we projecting next year, year after next for enrollment growth?
We sent the board a couple of weeks ago our projection for enrollment for 22-23. That is a very clear, obviously, until we see the 14-day enrollment. But as Dr. Sells mentioned earlier, we are very hopeful to see a pretty healthy growth. And we have put together an enrollment management committee that have been meeting now for over 2 years to counteract the impact we had of the pandemic, that we will be producing. I think we're in the process now of finishing a document that the Vice President for Student Affairs and the Provost, with our committee, is projecting for the next several years what our goals are. So that is
I
forthcoming.
saw the 20, I mean, that's just 1 year out, so we're 1 year out.
Yes, and I'm saying that we are in the process now of completing for the next 3 to 5 years.
But we know that if we do grow, there's incremental for both. There's incremental for additional hours, and there would be additional money that could go towards the salaries. So it's better to wait to see how close we get, because it's going to happen mathematically. And if tuition goes up more than if enrollment goes up more than what we thought, we have an opportunity.
What's the change in like for every so many as enrollment goes up every so much, it does what to revenue? I've heard that.
Yeah, for 1% enrollment in the past has produced somewhere around 1.2 million net
So
in
it
revenue.
changed either way.
That has changed since the pandemic, because we were using that and it worked very well. But with the pandemic, our graduate enrollment went way up, and undergraduate was down and international was down. See, those are different rates. So it's not when you lose an international student, it's a much larger rate. A graduate student will bring in more, because of the adjusting various rates. So we try to wait, as Dr. McPhee says, to look at that 14th day report and see what the numbers are then, credit hours, see what the revenue is, rather than just basing it off of enrollment.
So Alan, as good as you are, good luck adjusting that numbers with the inflation rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And well, and what you were talking about, hiring more as you get,
Yep.
you can hire more people, but as you hire more people, if you haven't made those
Yes.
market adjustments,
Right.
that makes compression.
Yes.
I've been in the industry for so long, I know what salary compressions are, but it's multiplied
Yes,
here.
right.
What I look at here is like, what? You actually got people here that are the hiring manager for a faculty position, hiring people
Yes,
that are coming in making more than they do,
yes,
right?
yes.
And that's weird. That doesn't add up to me, but, it happens in order to attract the right people.
Anyway,
Anyway,
very good discussion.
One more question.
Okay, Darren.
There's two ways to grow a business. One is the organic, one is inorganic. Do we have any plans for acquisitions of universities or other colleges that are in the area? As we know, UT purchased or brought in Martin Methodist a number of years ago, last year. Do we have any strategy around expanding in that way? Because we're having difficulties with salaries and budget. I'm pretty sure there are some private universities around the state that are having some of the similar issues that we could acquire, if you will. But it seems to be with a declining enrollment, which is what we've had for the last number of years, depending on just bringing more students in, the regular recruiting way has not been fruitful.
Well, in the inorganic way, heck, can cut that off in a hurry.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
But I'm just saying, UT just expanded their enrollment by 1,200 students by.
No.
I'd like to speak to that. If we had acquired Martin on the same terms, it would have broke us.
Absolutely.
They lose, the state is going to fund them continually $10 million more a year. They got 600 students. 500 and some of them are in athletic programs. So nobody pays full tuition at Martin. And think about if you, but Martin is a horrible investment. And we accepted that. But the administration of our state recognized that Martin was a poor economic investment. So I'll be all in if we see one. We tried that with Valparaiso, right?
Yes,
School.
And I'm hoping there'll be other opportunities, but that particular example, there are all kind of private ones we could buy, because JB was on their board 20 years, and my brother was on their board. They were and losing tens of thousands of dollars. So
you don't think there's no economic benefit to UT for buying?
No, I think it's a horrible detriment. It's double-digit millions detriment to UT.
And we've seen the performer on that.
We did the numbers on it.
We did the numbers.
We did the numbers on how many students they had and what they paid. And UT, the salaries that the people at Martin were making were here. They're going to UT level. They now have 2 people that run it. So if they had bought it and it was a school and they could do like you do when you buy a bank and eliminate lots of, you only need one CFO, right? So when you buy a bank, you eliminate lots of overhead. They didn't eliminate any overhead. So, it wasn't a purchase like a business purchase. It was financially detrimental to the state and the University of Tennessee.
The Martin nominal tuition was here. Their average student was paying here. What they'll pay at the UT rate will be here. It'll be less than what Martin was netting from the discount from the real.
Their expenses went up and revenue went down.
But we are looking at other sources of revenue, and hopefully, the Chairman and I have been in some discussion, hopefully in not too distant future, we will. Obviously, we can't depend totally on the state 100%, but we are looking at other ways to generate revenue for the university.
Okay, thank y'all. Alan, next.
Okay, tab 6 is an update on the higher education emergency relief funds. It had been about a year since we'd given you an update. As far as we know, this is ending that program. So at the top of page 38, you'll see a summary of everything that was awarded. So in total, a little bit over $103 million. Right now, we've spent or encumbered $102.6 million. We have remaining of about $520,000. Now, that's based on our best estimates right now of how tuition will fall out this year. We won't know that for sure till June. Also, we've made some other assumptions there that all the projects that have been allocated or we have a purchase order and everything, that supply chain issues don't crumble some of those. I mean, we're length of time's one thing, but if prices, go up, down, some projects come in a lot higher. So there's not a lot of wiggle room there, so we're watching that. And the reason I wanted to provide it, we thought, or the original date of that program went through May 15th, 22. We've just learned that the federal government, Department of Education, is going to extend that through June 30, 2023. A no-cost extension, which means no more money. You just have that much time to continue doing the projects you already have in the hopper. I have a reason to believe that that was due to supply chain issues. A lot of the projects schools were doing were IT projects, or for some kind of small facility, academic facility work for social distancing, and all of that has created just has experienced supply chain issues. So that helps us trying to make sure we close it down and don't send any of the funds back to the federal government. But like I said, there was no money added at this time, and we are not hearing that there will be. So just an update there, information only.
Bill, are you ready?
All right, so I will turn it over to Bill Waits on tab 6.
Good afternoon. The capital disclosure item is located on tab 6 in your materials. That's page 39. This is an action item requiring board approval. As discussed earlier, disclosure of a capital project at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission is the first step in the project approval process and indicates an institution is considering a large-scale project investment but does not obligate the university to carry the work out. On February 9th, MTSU had the opportunity to amend the MTSU FY 21-22 capital disclosure list via quarterly disclosure with a new disclosure for Phillips Bookstore Improvements Project. This project is a gift-in-place project that will be carried out by Barnes & Noble College, and what that means is we aren't paying for the construction or design services. That will all be through Barnes & Noble. This work includes a new retail layout and a new seating area for the bookstore located in the Student Union. This disclosure will allow the work to be carried out in summer 2022, that's this summer, and we'll get it ready for the fall semester. So certainly any questions. Also included in your materials on page 41, just for your reference, there is the full MTSU disclosure list. As it would appear on April 1, you can see at the top there we've highlighted the Phillips Bookstore Improvements disclosure, so that will be added to the list. And then everything below that are items that are currently on the disclosure list. Certainly any questions you have, please let me know.
Did we approve the design per se, or was it something just?
Yes, sir, we do. They have sent us drawings that we approve, and certainly we've been working with them. It's been some time. It's been probably a little over a year trying to get this work carried out, and I think we're finally ready to go and have a good design solution. I think it will be some improvements, certainly some needed improvements to the bookstore.
Now, Bill, where is the rest of the Build Blue project?
So they're currently, you see we have one, the Student Athlete Performance Center on the disclosure list. The remaining work has not been disclosed.
That's what's going to happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In May, we will come back for additional disclosures to be included in the capital budget. Certainly, the remaining athletic work will be among those disclosures.
So we don't approve that today?
No, sir.
Okay. What action are we doing today?
So today is for the Phillips Bookstore Improvements Project.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So
$350,000.
we're going to promote this improvements to our student body, let them know it's happening. they got something to look forward to, come back to, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Big time. All right, good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Bob, are you ready? And that's Dr. Anderson with you? Okay. I'll let you moderate it.
Well, thank you again, President Fee, Chairman Smith, Committee Chair Jacobs, and fellow trustees for giving us some time. Never spoken to the board before, and now I'm doing it twice. Try to be very brief. In one meeting, right. Again, I'm Bob Gordon, Associate Professor of Media Arts and Faculty Senate President. Accompanying me this afternoon is Dr. Ann Anderson, Professor, Weatherford Chair of Finance, and Chair of the Faculty Senate Finance Subcommittee. As faculty, we are proud to have achieved the R2 High Research Carnegie classification, a designation that will benefit MTSU greatly and allow us to continue to be highly competitive in attracting quality faculty. This R2 recognition, while welcome, comes at a time of challenge. MTSU faculty recently overcame difficulties in teaching under various COVID restrictions and requirements, and did so successfully, keeping the needs of students at the forefront. Faculty and staff want to feel valued, and we are disappointed that even with the state surplus, every other state agency other than higher ed has received a fully state-funded raise of 4%, as was discussed here earlier today. In addition, there is no stated or shared plan to bring faculty salaries to even 2020 market value. Not only do these issues affect current faculty morale, the Faculty Senate also feels that the salary issue would adversely affect the university's ability to attract quality faculty as we work to maintain the R2 designation. Dr. Anderson has some information to share with you regarding Senate faculty growth.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you to the trustees for allowing us the time to present our analysis. Before doing so, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Alan and Kathy for the time they spent with me answering my questions, and for Becky Cole, who not only shared the data, but actually met with me to go over the results as well to make sure she was in agreement with what I was going to share with you this day. So I don't think a lot of this is going to be a surprise to you because you've already heard some of what we've talked about. If my clicker would work. You good?
We have the handout, don't we?
You do, yeah.
Dr. Anderson, how long have you been at MTSU?
I arrived in August of 2018. Right. I came here from Lehigh University in Bethlehem,
Lehigh. Okay.
in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
There we go. She's a West Point grad, too. West Point grad?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do you want to just go ahead and advance to the next slide, and I'll tell you when to advance? Is there a next slide?
Since they have it in front of them, Dr. Anderson.
All right, I'll just go ahead. All right. So the first chart that you see is the salary growth from academic year 14-15 to academic year 2021. And I'm actually doing two comparisons. I am comparing to the Coupa data for our 50 peer schools, which you'll see on my left of the chart, as well as the Tennessee universities. These are 8 universities that we consider our LGI schools, right? So it's very clear that you can see from this that we have invested in faculty salaries since 2014-15, and there is growth, but you can also see that growth is very commensurate with Coupa data, which means we haven't closed the market gap. You also can see that our Tennessee peers have grown at an extremely greater rate than we have grown. Specifically, since 14-15 to 2021, Coupa growth was 11.1% on average. MTSU growth was an average of 13.4%. And the other Tennessee universities grew at 23.2%. That's a significant difference. To give you some specific examples not shown on the chart, at MTSU, the largest increase on campus was to the average assistant professors in liberal arts was a 19.8% increase. So that's just taking all of the assistant professors in that college, taking the average of the change. The lowest on MTSU's campus was for associate professors, and they grew at a rate of 6.7% on average. Compared to Tennessee universities, In Tennessee universities, it was professors in the business school, an average growth of 38.5%. And the lowest in Tennessee universities was liberal arts, an average growth of 17.4%. Next slide. So the next slide is a comparison to, when you see it, to the Coupa 14-15 data, which is currently our benchmark. And as you'll see, MTSU is close, but we're still lagging other Tennessee universities. So overall, MTSU salaries are 0.5% below the Coupa 14-15 data. So we're not quite there, but we're really close. And by college, BAS is 1.37 above, and media is 0.36 above, business is 3% below, but we have 3 colleges that are still significantly below 14-15 data. On average, liberal arts 2.2%, education 2.6%, and behavioral science 2.7% below. Some highlights, and these are the outliers, right? So there's always going to be outliers. Anthropology professors on average are 26.01% above Coupa for 14-15. But criminal justice professors are 3.7% below Coupa 14-15. So we're 0.5% below 14-15. The average Tennessee universities outside of MTSU are 10.9% above 14-15. So it's a huge difference, right? And all of their colleges, of course, are above. Next slide. But the reality is it's actually 2022, and so to compare to 14-15 is probably, nope, one too far. In terms of Coupa, you can go back one. You can see compared to 2021, we are completely below the bar, right? We actually are 10.6% below the 2021 data, whereas other Tennessee universities are only 1% below. So what we're seeing here is that by splitting that 4% or whatever percentage it is between raises and getting to market, we're actually not getting any closer to market. We're just delaying the effects, right? And so to me, the more important comparison is on the last slide. And this is actually just comparing us to other Tennessee schools. So on average, MTSU salaries are 10.3% below our Tennessee peers. 10.3% on average. By college, and the key here understanding is we don't have all the colleges, we don't have all the data. BAS is 6.5% of the Tennessee universities. Liberal arts is 10% below. Behavioral is 10.2% below. And the business school is 16.3% below other Tennessee universities. These are significant differences, and I want to note that our mission statement says, MTSU attracts and retains exceptional faculty and staff and develops resources to support excellence in instruction, research, creative activity, and public and professional services. Now, this is only the salaries for faculty. I don't have the salary on staff or GAs, but I will say that I've been told that we haven't raised GA wages for over a decade. It's really hard to attract great GAs and great research assistants and to maintain great staff when you're not raising wages to be commensurate with our other schools. So the Senate hopes that you will all see and understand that in order to do this, the university needs to continue to invest in faculty, staff, and students. The state recommends a 4% raise, which we understand is not fully funded. Our hope is that additional funds are found so that the 4% raise can be given, and that in addition to that, the university come up with a clear plan to close the market gap, not to 14-15, not to 15-16, but at least to the 2021, if not 21-22 data. And we hope that we do that with the plan that we actually complete. It's my understanding that our previous market adjustment plans have never been completed. And I thank you for your time. Robert.
Dr. Anderson, those last comments, do you have those in a slide, those last comments you made?
I have them written down right here.
Would you make sure you get them to Dr. McPhee?
I will. I'll send my slides with notes on to Dr. McPhee as soon as I'm done here.
Sure.
I got a question for you, Dr. Anderson. The last 2 years, they've been tough years. We've asked staff to work during one of the most difficult times in America's history. And you all stepped up to the plate. And you taught classes, in some cases, risk your lives may be too strong, but certainly a possibility. What makes me nervous about this is you being underpaid and asked to do what you've done over the past 2 years, and I'm just wondering what the morale is like, and I'm wondering what the turnover, what the turnover is like, and I'm wondering if people are poaching faculty from MTSU. And to your point, we say we attract faculty members, but our pay is below, and so just a little commentary or color on that, if you could.
So I think Robert has some thoughts. I'll give you my thoughts, and I'll give it to Robert. So understand that everybody's utility curve is different, right? And so I can't speak to the faculty as a whole. I can tell you that morale is low, right? But I also spoke, when I spoke with President McPhee a couple weeks ago, to me, the important thing is the messaging, right? And so if you can't get to 4%, explain why you can't get to 4%. Just don't leave it hanging, right? If you're going to give us a market wage adjustment plan, make sure we fulfill it, right? So if faculty understand that you truly value them and you're making every effort to show that, then morale is going to go up. But if we're not giving that messaging to make sure that they're clearly understanding that we're valued, then you're right. We're going to get to that mediocre behavior, and you're not going to be putting out the students that you want. I think the people that come to Tennessee love Tennessee, so I don't think the first choice is to quickly pack up my bags and move, because the grass isn't always green on the other side of the fence, right? So if you love it here, you're going to try to fight and stay, and there's going to come a point you have to make a decision. I came here because I didn't love my prior university. I still love it here, so I'm committed. Robert, you want to add to that?
Sure. This seems to be a constant point of discussion every time the Senate meets. You know, they've obviously been concerned about the COVID situation that we were in, and some faculty members felt that they were somewhat put in a possibly medically compromised situation to be able to teach, in person, but that was what was mandated to us, and we did that. We've already talked about academic freedom issue, which really hasn't been much on our minds until just recently, so we're wondering what's coming down the pike, so that affects morale. And then the triple threat is the salary issues that Ann, went through very well. So when you put all three of those together, that does have an effect. I think what would really help is what Ann mentioned, is when the faculty sees that there is effort on the part of the administration and the board to address these issues, they recognize where your limitations are with the state government. You can only go so far with things. But I think if they continue to see that you're really making an effort and you're looking out for them and you're trying your best, then they're really quite willing to cut you a lot of slack and recognize that and appreciate it. So we really do appreciate you giving us some time today and being able to state the concerns of the Senate, because that's what our job is. The Senate is to represent the faculty, and those of us that are in the executive committees our executive roles in the Senate are to recommend or to represent the Senate, and we really appreciate you giving us some time to be able to do that for you today.
We're in this quandary of this faculty and staff are underpaid. We're also in this mode where we're trying to turn our enrollment decline around, and it's the people who deliver the services, who teach the students, who set the tone, are not in a real happy place. When I was the chairman of the board of a hospital, we could determine how well the patients were being taken care of based on the morale of the nurses and the turnover of the nurses. High turnover meant that morale was down and patient care wasn't the greatest. And so I'm just trying to figure out how is all of that connected, and how are we going to be able to move enrollment in the right direction.
And we're all in the same boat, right? If you don't have students here, we have no one to teach, so we understand the importance of enrollment. I think the key is being clear about what the plan is. So if you really can't have a market adjustment plan this year, but you can get to 4%, explain why, but have a plan to get to market. The key is being upfront and open, but also showing us that you're really putting forth the effort, like the lobbying of legislators, so that we know. I know President McPhee wants to be able to do it. I know that Provost Burns wants to be able to hire good faculty, right? We get that, but we have to make sure that there's still the effort to get where we need to get to.
And I might add, and I do think the provost and I meet regularly with the faculty senate liaison. It's not that we have not communicated a plan. It is not that we have not worked with our faculty. We know this is a tough time. It's a tough time around the country. We are doing our best and will continue. So I don't want to have this message left that somehow the university is wrath with morale. There are a lot of hard-working faculty that understand the situation. They appreciate that there are others out there who are struggling, and they're doing the best, and they know that the administration is making an effort. And we meet on a regular basis to communicate that to the faculty, to our liaison group, on a regular basis. Is that correct, Bob?
That is completely correct. We meet with President McPhee and Dr. Burns all the time. We're very much aware of the efforts. It's our part of what we're supposed to do in the Senate is to make sure that information translates to all of the rest of the faculty. You know, we can communicate to them as best as we can. I think it's just important for them to recognize the strong work that this administration has done on their behalf and for them to always be aware of it.
I have a question for you, Dr. Gordon and Dr. Anderson. So I understand that the Faculty Senate has a clear understanding of, you know, the 4% increase and the lack of state funding for that increase. Is there a clear understanding among the Faculty Senate about why we're falling behind our peer schools in Tennessee? Even when we have, I mean, that state funding issue applies to all of those schools, right?
So what I'll say is, I don't think until today, I don't think people knew that because we just did the analysis, right? So what I did was I actually looked also at tuition, right? So because if we're told to raise tuition, if you go across the schools that we compare to, if you could go down one more slide, that would be great. Sorry. If you look at the schools that we compare to, based on what I found on their current web pages, we have the third lowest tuition, right? And so you're trying to squeeze that lemon, and you can only get so much juice out of it. So would I say faculty understand that? Probably not yet, but now our job, now that we shared this with you and we've done the analysis, is to continue to analyze, right? So one thing that I even spoke to Provost Burns about, and I've spoke with Becky about, is we need to take this analysis further. We need to do a gender analysis. We need to do an ethnicity analysis, right? But we only have the data, so much data, right? But we do need to dive in and actually make sure we're addressing those things. But the key difference is tuition and also out-of-state tuition. If you look at those values, we're not in the top one of the cost, right? So that's going to be a big driver.
And let me add to that. I'm glad you raised that point, because being on the Board of Regents, and Trustee Freeman is Board of Regent when I was Vice Chancellor, every year the board would allow the University of Memphis to increase their tuition almost by double, and all the other universities significantly lower. So years and years and years, and I'm glad you raised the point about where our tuition. There's a good news about being affordable, but there's also the other side of that that brings us to this point. So this is not a situation of neglect. I want to make that very clear. And it is important to understand all of the dynamics that are involved here. You just need to go back and look at the history of the tuition increases. It is one of the reasons why the University of Memphis could say in the last 2 years that they are not raising their tuition by 1 or 2% there, because they will be raising their tuition by 8, 9, 10, 15%. The other universities, 2 and 3, 4%. Is that right, Alan?
So that brings up, for me, it brings up another, thank you for that clarification, Doc. That brings up another question for me. If we got the third lowest tuition, how does that impact our enrollment? I mean, if we're showing the third lowest and it's not causing students to flock here, I mean, we're in an enrollment decline. How do you?
But it's an enrollment decline across the state. It's not just us. So
that's correct. Got the highest.
That is correct.
But I think we already heard there was a lag in that, right? So the
That's
other universities got hit the year prior, and we got hit this year. So I don't know that we could attribute that just to that. There's other factors.
Well, thank you. This has been a very good finance meeting. As always, thank y'all for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
We owe you a statement of thanks having something to do with the hockey and Predators for your show up at the MTSU night, which was
Yeah.
absolutely fabulous.
Yeah,
So thank you.
yeah. Wasn't expecting that. What I was wanting to do is thank Alan and Bill for all what y'all do for the university and your staffs. And there's a lot on the plate, and there's more puzzles to be solved with Alan than maybe with Bill, but I'm sure Bill has his puzzles to solve. But I do want to show my appreciation to that. So, any other questions or comments or remarks? Hearing none, can we be adjourned? And lunch?
Yes. All right.
That's a good, you didn't break no record.